Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us today on our not very sunny, not very wet, and a bit of an in-between type Tuesday. I hope you're having a good day. Hope you're having a good start to your week. I'm just going to give everybody a chance to get on to make sure that you can see and hear us. If you have a look at the bottom of your screens, you should see a Q&A box or a chat box. Just put something in there, say, yeah, we can see you, we can hear you, make sure everything's working. It's always nice to know before we get too far down the line that everybody can actually see and hear us and we're not just chatting to ourselves. It's always a good start. Hi, Mark. Thanks for saying hello. So that's a good start. At least Mark can hear us. So we're going to have a great webinar with Mark today. Josh as well. Brilliant, coming through. So I can see everybody's coming through. I'll give everybody a chance to sit down with your cup of coffee, cup of tea, glass of wine, whatever it may be, at sort of 11 o'clock in the morning. Just as a bit of housekeeping as we go along, if you do experience any problems, we are going to send out a recording of the webinar afterwards. So if it drops out or anything, or you need to nip off, or the Amazon guy or girl comes to the door, then we are going to have a recording that we'll send out afterwards as well. And if you do have any issues with sort of sound or visuals as we're going along, feel free just to, if you sort of close it and open it back up with the link in your email, that should sort any problems. That's sort of a technical bit aside. As we go throughout the webinar today, I'll introduce us in a moment, but as we go throughout today, just put anything in the Q&A box as we're going along. If there's something that seems relevant, we might pick it up and sort of answer it as we're going along. Otherwise, we'll just make sure everything's answered at the end. We are going to have a Q&A section at the end. So as Aynsley is going through today and some of the content that he's sharing, if you have got any questions that we can answer, just put them in and we'll make sure we try to get to all of those at the end. So I'm David from XU Magazine. I've got Aynsley with me today from Clarity. I'm going to hand over to shortly. But I'm really excited about today's webinar because with webinars, I like two things. I like one, it to be practical, and two, you can actually go away and do something with it straight away. And what I like today about today's webinar is that Aynsley's sort of been there and done it in practice, so to speak. So it's not all theory. He's got the t-shirt, so to speak, in terms of being in practice and experiencing some of these problems and solutions. But then also he's got some really good tangible ways of how he actually can look to deploy them as well. So Aynsley, do you just want to introduce yourself and a bit about you?
Yep, perfect. Thank you so much, David. For those of you who don't know me, I am a qualified chartered accountant. I still am an accountant, having sold my firm 2 years ago at this stage to Crow. I no longer have my practicing certificate, but I am still a chartered accountant. And often when I refer in the talk to us and we as accountants, I'm using the collective term. I obviously still consider myself to be a fully fledged accountant. So I left KPMG, David, and I joined a regional accounting firm in the UK. It was a pretty much compliance only firm. And over the years, I took that from compliance only to a niche business advisory firm. We won a huge number of awards for the way we did business, particularly brand, culture, marketing, innovation and technology, but not technology for technology's sake. It was more about how we used technology to deliver a better client experience and better client services. And for those who know me will hear me talk recently of the fact that we did go down that warren on consulting, that rabbit warren on consulting and too deep into business advisory. I feel in hindsight, looking back on it, in effect, when I was at KPMG, I saw big firms get great support from KPMG. And when I moved to a small practice, I saw how little support small businesses got. And effectively, we created a monster. We created a mini KPMG, which was only suitable for a small tranche of small businesses. And I wanted to see, and Steve Briginshaw, my fellow founder at Clarity, had a very similar experience. So we wanted to see how we could make a bigger impact for smaller businesses and scale back advisory so that we could scale it within an accounting firm. So scale back the level and depth of the advisory service offered, making it more accessible to more small business owners, more profitable for the firms to deliver, and easier for small business owners to afford. And hopefully we can talk about some of that today.
Yeah, and that's really great. Thanks for that. Thanks for that, Aynsley. And one of the things I'd encourage everybody to do today is make sure you sort of got your pens and your notepads at the ready, just to take some notes and try to go away with a bit of an action plan in terms of from some of the bits that Aynsley is going to cover. So you've got something to go away with and to action.
Indeed, it's going to be practical, hopefully, hands-on. Do ask questions, do interrupt, do put into the chat, say hi, let us know you're still alive. That would be good. And we will be dealing with questions as we go. Sam is also there to monitor chat for David and myself. And any links that we talk about, he can drop them in the chat box too. So don't worry if you haven't got time to take down those links. And of course, Alex will be following up at the end with all the various ways that you can get involved and the tools that you can help yourself, and some next steps as well, because this has got to be practical. So those were some of the awards. The agenda that we want to take you through today is just a brief introduction to what's going on out there, and why there's this potential need for change. I know we've been talking about change in the accounting world for 15, 20 years, and I know there's been certain change from cloud perspectives, but the actual service delivery has been pretty much the same for that period of time. So I do think we have an ideal opportunity now to make that difference, and there's a real reason for that change, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to be talking about fitting your own oxygen mask first, why it's important to look after the firm so that the firm can look after the clients. And we'll also be talking about the symbiotic relationship between what works for clients works for the firm generally, and what works for the firm works for clients too. So those sections 2 and 3 might merge for some people, and they might cross over. So there's hopefully plenty of action points to take away. And then we're going to finish up with, as David said, any questions and next steps as well. So let's get cracking. A brief introduction. So what the heck has happened? The last 12 months, it's even more than 12 months. It seems like it's a lot longer than 12 months. It seems like forever. But what has happened? Well, I've dug up this old quote that I used when I was delivering talks to business clients and potential prospects at the accounting firm I worked with. And this was referring to the cloud. And this is probably 5 years, 7 years ago. But I think it's still highly relevant to today, possibly even more so today. And particularly relevant if we're talking about the advance in cloud and MTD changes that are coming in the UK. So that's the tax initiative and making tax digital in the UK. So we're at an inflection point, says Andy Gove from Intel, so clever guy, where nothing less than a fundamental shift in business strategy is going to suffice. I think it's actually even more than that over the last number of years. I think we're now, given what's happened in the last 12 months, I think this is a defining moment. We know that more small businesses fail coming out of a recession than they do within a recession. And I think given the government stimulus packages that have been available around the world, and those being pulled back, I think that's probably going to exacerbate the problem this time around. So we are going to see more and more small businesses struggling as we come out of this recession. So I mean, we consider this absolutely to be a defining moment. And are you going to be content to continue to report on history for your clients, or are you going to help your clients, help your firm, help yourself create history and make a difference? So this is what today's all about. I hope you're here to help us create history for your small business clients. Now, imagine if your clients were to say to you something along the lines of, nobody has ever taken me through my numbers like this before. Nobody has ever explained it that way to me. It's like you've lit a fire beneath me. I can't wait to get started. Can you imagine if a small business owner said to you, no accountant has ever helped me like this. This is amazing. You are the best. Or I can't believe I haven't done this before. These are the types of things that small business owners are saying to accountants when we talk about that term business advisory. Now, today is not going to be all about business advisory, but we're going to be talking about those terms. So let's start bringing that up front. And just in case you're thinking, this is Aynsley from a tech company, what's he got? He's going to be pushing the tech angle. Absolutely not. Having come from a practice background, having been an early adopter about technology back in 2009, having used a lot of technology over the years, it's crucially important that technology is there to do the heavy lifting. We are in a people-to-people business. The power of people is critical. And so it's how we harness people, process, and technology to deliver a better client experience and better client services, and to make the firm more efficient and effective. And when those are out of kilter, that's when things go awry. So I don't think technology is the silver bullet, but a little bit about clarity before we get going, so we can put a little bit into perspective, and you can understand, I suppose, the purpose of why we do what we do too. So we are passionate about small business. We come from small business backgrounds. We know that small businesses power the global economy. They represent in most Western economies 99.9% of businesses. In most Western economies, they are nearly 2/3, at least half, if not to 2/3 of private sector employment, and they are more than 50% of private sector GDP. But the success rate of small businesses is woeful, and 5 out of 10 fail within the first 5 years, and when we go out to 10 years, it's only between 1 to 3 survive that 10-year hurdle. Now, what can we do to help change that? What can we do to help create a better business for our clients, a better life for their family and their team, and ultimately contribute towards creating a better world too? And our platform really strips back the complexity and makes the worlds of business and numbers beautifully simple. And we help your small business clients understand the numbers and how to make them better, create plans to drive out action and drive outcomes, and to be able to get access to the support, funding, and tools necessary to be able to help turn their business into a better future for themselves and their family and team. As a company, we've also won some awards too, and we were very lucky to win the Accounting Excellence Awards in December, and we were finalists this year in Xero's Practice App of the Year. Last year, we were Emerging App of the Year, so I'm pleased with good progression over that period. So enough about clarity, let's get into it. Putting your own firm first. This is fitting your own oxygen mask. So as you know, on any flight you're on, the attendants will say to you, fit your own oxygen mask before fitting that of a child or of an elderly person. And that's because if you run out of oxygen, you're not going to be able to help others. So this is about putting your own oxygen on first. And this applies to you as a firm as well. This is about ensuring your firm's survival and thrival. So I appreciate that over the last 12 months, accountants have probably been busier than they've ever been. Some accountants are doing the best they've done for 5-10 years. Let's not rest on those laurels. If you're one of those firms that's had a bumper year, if you're not, let's look about how we can strengthen the firm and put it in the best place possible to be able to help our clients going forward, especially in their time of need. Now, the biggest challenges that we've seen in the accounting world, and from our discussions with accountants from all over the world, we know the age-old story. It's easier now to get into accounting than it was ever before. It's easy to set up a cloud firm. It's easy to jump the curve on technology, get access to outsourcing or offshore teams, and to be able to get that firm up and running quickly. And in the past, where we saw, I suppose, a lot of competition on compliance, we're now seeing that competition stretch into the advisory space as well. So a big downward pressure on pricing. And we know, and we've been told as accountants for the last 15, 20 years or more, that we need to be moving from compliance into advisory. Compliance is dead. We must start getting into advisory. Well, we'll come on to that myth in a little while, but in reality, it has been difficult for firms to introduce advisory, and it's really only the top 10 or 20% of clients that take up advisory services. Heavily reliant on senior team who are time starved. There's that need to find those revenue streams we discussed about, and with a huge amount of technology out there, a lot of that tech hasn't delivered on its promise. It's not helped, and potentially because we've not had the right processes working with the right people, but maybe it's not been the right tech for the right client or the right tech for the right firm at the same time as well. So these are the big challenges that we're seeing in accounting firms. Now, before this year, the numbers were showing that revenue per partner in most practices was decreasing by up to 41% over the last 5-year period. Now that's huge. What do we need to do to be able to reverse that? How can we change that? How can we make the firm more successful and more scalable so that we can help more small business owners out there? I also wanted to touch on the challenges and issues facing small businesses too. So firstly, and when we're talking about small businesses applies to accounting firms as much as anybody else. And often as we're the typical builder, we maybe don't look after our own house as well as we look after the houses of others. So putting that into perspective too. So business is complex. The world is complex. It's getting more so. It used to be that in business, you could go into business 5-10 years ago, have operational best practice. So do everything for your industry in the best possible way and have outstanding customer service, and you were almost guaranteed success. Now that just gets you to the starting line. And at the moment, small business owners are drowning in information. It's coming at them and they're being bombarded from all angles. News, email, just reports. Everywhere information's coming in at them. Social media, their phone is bing, 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 bing. What small business owners are there? I mean, they're drowning in that information and they're starving for knowledge. What they don't need is more information and more data thrown at them. What they need is help in bringing that data into insights so that they can take action and drive their results. So this is about us as accountants stripping back the complexity, breaking the data and helping clients interpret the data, giving them bite-sized pieces of information that they can take action on to be able to drive their business forward. Cash, Well, that's that age-old problem that we've seen for years. Small business owners, startups don't have any cash. They need to borrow from friends and family, bank of mom and dad, credit cards, and growing, scaling businesses consume cash. It's just the law of business. And when we look at business owners' understanding of the difference between profit and operating cash, how many times have you given a set of accounts to a client and they've said to you, oh, I couldn't have made all that profit. Where has the cash gone? We know this. We also know that they struggle with understanding the movement of cash in their business and how to accelerate cash movements. Now, as accountants, we have this knowledge in spades. We also have the ability to help them get access and understand getting access to the right cash at the right price. As a business grows, it needs cash to grow. Rarely can a business get that from its existing reserves. It often needs to look outside for sources of finance. And this is about us helping our clients understand the cost of capital and understanding what's the best route for funding at this particular moment in time and the best rate too. When we get onto numbers, and it'd be interesting actually, let's get people involved. So let's not just sit here passively and listen to Aynsley blab at you. I am Irish. I have kissed the Blarney Stone. I do speak a lot. So please do drop into the chat if you want David or Sam to interrupt me. But let's get into the chat now. And tell me, how many of your clients, or what percentage of your clients, get regular management information? So this is monthly management accounts, quarterly management accounts, quarterly board pack, whatever it is. What percentage of your clients get regular management information? So if you could just drop that into the chat for me, that would be good. Don't feel afraid. We're not going to judge you. We're not going to rank you here. And if you're looking for some ideas and thoughts, what we're seeing when we ask this question for most people is there will obviously be firms out there which are specialist niche advisory or niche firms. But when we're looking at general practitioners, anywhere up to 20% of clients are getting regular management information. Now, I know there will be some firms out there that it'll be 50% and some it'll be 100%. But for the vast majority of general practices, we're seeing up to 20% of clients are getting regular management information. Now, I was interesting. I spoke to Deloitte Propel about this question, and they said to me, oh, yes, we don't need anything because we send out regular management information and reports from Xero. And it was like, oh, that's interesting. So how many of your clients do you actually sit through and take through those management accounts? And as you can imagine, the answer was pretty much zero. Small business owners don't understand their numbers generally. They don't get numbers, they don't get percentages. And when we're talking to them and they're nodding at us, they're often afraid to let us know or embarrassed to say that they don't understand their numbers. So it's really critically important that we sit down and get our clients to understand the numbers underlying the management information. And it's also worth considering what type of management information are we preparing? Are we pushing the button on Xero and sending out reports, or sending out reports out through Fathom or whatever tool, Spotlight or Futurely, that we're using for reporting? Are we just pushing the button on that data in Xero? Or are we actually looking at revenue recognition, WIP adjustments, accruals, prepayments? Because if we've got management accounts that are choppy, then it's really difficult for a business owner to take proper business decisions based on those management accounts. Are we actually preparing proper management accounts based on those important pieces of information? Now, if you're coming from the UK with MTD and the changes that are upcoming, you're going to be needing your clients to be making those adjustments on a quarterly basis if they're filing their CT returns on a quarterly basis. That's their corporation tax. So getting Xero as the single point of truth, making sure that all the proper journals and adjustments are going through on a monthly or quarterly basis is going to become even more critical as we go forward. Now, so that's two things: not getting information and not understanding it. And the last thing is planning. So my clients used to spend more time planning their holiday than they did in their business. Now, if you think about it, nothing in the world gets created without a plan. Whether that's a piece of music, a piece of art, or certainly nothing structural like a building, an engine, or a car. How many of our clients have a financial plan? And I'm not talking about the 60-page tome that we did for a bank, or when we were applying for a grant or funding at the very outset that sits in the bottom drawer. This is a 12-month budget, a 3-way, 5-year plan, forecast, a cash flow forecast. This is financial information to be able to see whether we're on track or not. So how many of your clients, and if you want to drop in that chat again, and thanks for the last one, I can see there was a good split and actually a lot higher. So that's good to see. So lots of high numbers in there, some at the numbers we were saying as well. Can you drop in the chat, just letting me know how many or what percentage of your clients have either a 12-month budget or a 3 or 5 year financial plan, 3-way forecast, anything from that financial perspective. So we are seeing, and from talks with other people, again, just to give you some context, because again, I'm not going to judge you, but we're seeing anywhere of up to 5% of most general practices are having, their clients have regular financial information. And as I can see this coming through here, we can see 5%, some again, well, if reflective of the level of work you're doing on management accounts. So if you're giving 50% of your clients management accounts, then you will probably have that 25% that have a financial plan. Again, we've got lots at 8% to 10% as well. Now, we know how planning is critical for success, vital for success in many respects. If you think about it, how do you climb a mountain? It's one step at a time. And you might plan the route, and you certainly need to plan a route when you start out. It's not to say that that route isn't going to change, that the weather conditions aren't going to change, and you're going to have to take a different course of action. It's much the same for business. It's also the same when you create a building. You don't start there with blocks on the ground and just chuck them together and see what happens. It might create something reasonable, or it may not. You will have a picture of that house before, what it's going to look like before it's finally done. And that's not to say that you're not going to change the paint color, the layout internally, add extra windows, put on a conservatory. Of course, you're going to make those changes as you go along, but you need to understand where you are against the plan. Are you ahead of the plan? Are you behind the plan? Do we need to make changes? Do you need to double down? So it's vitally critical going forward for your clients, and particularly where we are now, that you give every single one of your clients a financial plan, or certainly 80% of them. There will always be 20% of clients that won't want to get involved in this level of work on their business. But we know from numbers that the vast majority of small business out there are looking for more from you as an accountant. And when we look at this survey from Accounting Today in the US, and you'll say to me, oh yes, Aynsley, that's the US, it's different in Australia, New Zealand, it's different in the UK. Well, 2020 did something similar last year, and the only difference was number 3 and number 4 switched around. And I certainly know from conversations when I've been in Australia and New Zealand that whilst we might question validity of surveys, the underlying facts are that clients are looking for more for less. They're looking for more help from us as accountants. They're looking for faster information delivered in plain English, and they want it to be affordable. Now, to deliver all 5 things here, and when we're looking at this, is the 70 to 80% of your clients are looking for all 5 of these things from you. To deliver this as a firm, you are going to have to leverage people, process, and technology. There's no way about it. You've got to get the 3 working together to be able to deliver all 5 of these to pretty much 80% of your client base. Now, this term, and this being a trusted advisor, nebulous term, let's forget that term. Let's just call that an intelligent friend. Small businesses lonely. Small business owners have few people to generally talk to. Most of their friends are employed and don't understand the issues and challenges. It's very difficult to share problems with your family. You don't want to freak them out. And your friends who might be self-employed, well, there's a lot of swinging that goes on, and we can't admit failure, we can't admit weakness. And so it's very unlikely that your clients are going to be able to share their issues and challenges with friends who are employed too. So you, by being there as an accountant, a safe place, a safe haven for them to share their issues and challenges and fears in that environment, is a hugely beneficial service, one that as accountants, we often overlook the power of what we can do just by being there, just by being there to listen, and by having that critical thinking brain that can ask those dumb questions. Why, what if, how's that, how can that be changed? So by being there, and that trusted advisor is what they're all looking for, in addition to obviously being affordable, understanding their business or their industry, and communicating clearly with them as non-accountants. Now, let's put this into perspective as well. I do not believe compliance is dead, and we've certainly seen over the last 12 months that that is not the case. Compliance definitely is not dead. But for most of us going forward, it's going to be about how we combine compliance and advisory. The old model of a third, which is a third for team salaries and overheads, a third for a team, a third for overheads, and a third for partner profits or reinvestment back in the business, is no longer fit for purpose, and it certainly doesn't appear to be working at the moment. We're seeing profits not at 33%, they're between 20 and 15% for many accounting firms. And that's even if they've had a good year in the last 12 months. For most of us, to get better, a better GP margin, to create a more scalable and sustainable accounting firm, it's going to be how do we combine compliance and advisory going forward. Of course, there will be those sausage factories, those compliance-only firms that will be able to churn through the work, automate it to the hell, pilot high, charge a cheap fee, and make a margin. Absolutely. But to do that, you're going to need to be a Tesco, or you're not going to need to do that en masse in the future. This is about how, as a firm, do we create a fun place to work, an exciting place, a place that clients are looking to join, and a place that our team want to work and are proud to work on. And it will be about how do we combine compliance and advisory going forward. And if you want to see a survey that was done by Zero In, this is in Canada, but I can pretty much, with confidence from my knowledge of the UK market, say this is pretty similar in the UK too. And from discussions that I've been having with people in Australia, New Zealand, and looking at the NAB and those other surveys that are coming out here, we're seeing very similar points that are being reflected here. We can see that repeatable advisory outstrips compliance only and complex advisory. So this is how do we create a repeatable, scalable firm, a scalable solution, a repeatable solution that we can deliver to pretty much all of our clients. And it's looking at what service that is and how do we create it. And so you can see here that the average revenue per small business client is higher and the highest in those that deliver repeatable advisory services and not that bespoke, complex, ad hoc advisory that certainly we did in my accounting firm. And as I said, in hindsight, I'd like to look at how we could have created a more scalable solution for our firm. You can also see how, obviously, and you would expect the revenue per client to be higher than a compliance-only firm. And in fact, it's surprising that it's possibly not even higher again. But maybe they haven't got tools like Clarity, for example. So accountants, we know we have all the necessary tools to be able to save and change the world. When Prince Charles said that accountants were going to save the world, I've toned it down a little bit to change the world. When he said accountants were going to save the world, everybody laughed at him. And this was about 10 years ago at an Institute of Chartered Accountants dinner in the UK. He repeated that about 2 years ago and people were still laughing at him. But if you can imagine it, if we can just change the needle a small bit on business success and help our clients achieve a more scalable, sustainable future for themselves, what a difference we can make to our local communities, to the global economy, and what difference it can make for the long run. So I definitely believe that accountants can change the world. So for you to be able to see what's possible for your own accounting firm, we've created a very simple calculator for you at Clarity. Sam's going to drop the link in the chat box for you, so you don't need to remember it, although it's quite a simple URL to be able to type in. Here you can go and play with your own firm's numbers. We don't take any details, so there's no identifying factors, so you can just go in there, play with your own numbers, find out where you are now in relation to that a third. Look at what's possible in your business. We've given you some example numbers in there. And for the time being, if you don't know any better, just go with those numbers. And if those numbers are higher than you were expecting, go with those numbers. There is method to that madness. We also give you the ability to look at additional salaries and costs as well associated with any additional work. So it's a really great way for you to be able to do that very simple gap analysis for yourself. So please do hop in and have a look and be able to see what's possible for your accounting firm. So moving on to how can you help your clients and how can you help your clients thrive. This, as I said, applies to your own firm too. So what is business advisory? And that's, again, another nebulous term that gets bandied around a lot. So we like to think at Clarity that baking advisory is much like baking a cake. If you think about it, in baking, and maybe you don't know baking, but in the UK, we have the Great British Bake Off. Hopefully you've seen that, or maybe on MasterChef, you'll have seen them baking. Baking is different from other forms of cooking. In baking, if you wing it, you're generally going to fail. It's quite scientific in its approach. You need the right ingredients. You need the right ingredients in the right proportion. You need to follow a recipe or method religiously. If you veer off course, again, disaster awaits. And when that cake is baking, how many times have you seen people on the floor staring into their ovens? Because you need to adjust the timings and temperatures as you're going along. It's very rare you could stick it in for the allotted time and pull it out and away it's done. Now, what we got here is a beautiful chocolate fondant, and that's a nemesis of anybody on MasterChef. They don't know whether it's going to be gooey or not, so they cut it open, and the margins between success and failure can sometimes be wafer thin. So thinking about business advisory and thinking about cake baking, how can I put that into, I suppose, a more scientific framework for you as accountants? Well, the framework I'm going to give you here is the exact same framework that is used by Bain, KPMG Consulting, McKinsey, right down to a small accounting firm in Cheltenham. This is the exact same process that is used for business advisory, wealth management advisory, tax advisory, marketing advisory, in fact, any form of advisory, probably cake baking advisory. So this framework is this simple. It's about understanding where your clients are now. It's about understanding where they could or should get to. It's about calculating the gap and putting some critical thinking analysis on that gap. It's about creating a plan to close the gap. And then it's about measuring and monitoring results versus the plan. Every single advisory engagement worldwide follows this process. Now, clearly, depending on the size of the client and the size of the engagement, at each step, you can go light or you can go deep. And it's also interesting to note that firms that have tried to introduce business advisory in the past generally jump into reporting. So they're jumping in at stage 5. They may even jump in at stage 4 by creating a plan. But rarely do they go through 5 stages. And accountants, we're great with solutions. We're great problem solvers. And we know generally the right course of action or what the client needs. But when we try and flog management reporting, or when we try and flog cash flow projections to a small business owner and wonder why they don't want to buy, we have got to change our mindset and change our thinking. Small business owners are looking for more money, more time, more freedom, or a combination, or all 3 of those in whatever proportions. Now, that's what we need to be selling our clients, not selling them cash flow reporting, not selling them management reporting. They don't understand why they need those things in place. So if we've done business advisory in the past and we've whipped a tool off the shelf and spewed out reports to our clients, remember, our clients are drowning in information. Sending them more reports that they don't get to speak to us about or we don't break down for them aren't going to be seen as hugely valuable for the vast majority of clients. There will, of course, be that element who completely get what you're up to, completely get why they need this, and those will be the clients that you can certainly start at that area. But for most clients, you're going to need to take them with you. I hate using the word journey, but you are going to need to take them with you. Jumping straight through to solution generally confuses and people don't understand why they need the solution. So what I'm going to give you here is a very practical framework for you to deliver for your 80% of clients that don't get numbers that you're potentially currently not serving. This is for the vast majority of small business owners out there that need help and generally aren't availing of your existing services. If you're new to business advisory, this is a great way to get started. Now, when I'm going to go through these numbers, of course, there will be clients that will need a deeper service, will need a more complex involvement. And of course, we can do that. I'm not suggesting for a minute that we don't do that. What I'm saying is that there's a vast tranche of your clients out there that aren't potentially getting the help or support that they're looking for or need from you. So how do we help our clients understand where they are now? Well, bearing in mind that most small business owners don't get their numbers and most small business owners are struggling with complexity, stripping back their numbers to these 7 key numbers is a great way to get started. I'm not saying these are the only 7 numbers. I'm not saying these 7 numbers will apply to every single business in the world. But what I am saying is for the vast majority of businesses, having a picture of these 7 numbers will give a great overview of their business. If you think about it, from you as an accounting firm, if I knew these 7 numbers for your firm, I would have an amazing understanding of how your business is performing. In fact, in accounting, I probably only need 1, and that is revenue per employee. If I know your revenue per employee, I can probably understand how effective and efficient you are as a firm with your systems and processes, how you utilize technology, how you're resourced, and whether you're compliance only or whether you're compliance and advisory or advisory heavy. Now, that one number will give me massive insight into your business. Can you imagine giving your clients the ability to have a massive insight into their businesses, or for you to have an overview of all your clients with these 7 numbers? So obviously, I'm not saying these are the only numbers, but I'm saying this is a great place to start, a great way to strip back the complexity and get more of your clients involved in business advisory and in their numbers and in getting and creating a better business for themselves. Obviously, we're talking about revenue for obvious reasons. Revenue has the biggest increase on the bottom line potential. That's why most business coaches or marketing organizations out there are pushing revenue growth. As accountants, we know revenue growth for revenue's growth's sake may not be the right way to go. We need to have a scalable business model before we start adding at the top end. So this is about how do we help our clients grow revenue in a way that actually contributes to cash and contributes to profits. And that's why revenue is an important number that we need to be getting our clients thinking about in revenue growth. Gross profit percentage, for obvious reasons. We need to break down GP by product and service line so that we can understand where our clients, what activities they're doing and what activities are generating what and contributing what to overheads. Are they putting their efforts in the right products and the right service lines? Are they putting their right efforts in the right areas? So by us breaking down GP in that way, we can give our clients huge insights into their business. Operating profit. This is an important number for a number of reasons. Valuations, for funding. All external people are looking at EBIT or EBITDA to understand the performance of a business. We need to get our clients thinking about operating profit. And the success of books like Profit First have really pushed forward the importance of profit in an entrepreneur's mindset. It's not just about revenue, it's also about understanding the relationship between profit and revenue, and creating a scalable business needs a profitable business. We can't generate operating cash from losses. Yes, we can get funding cash and investing cash, but we cannot generate operating cash unless we have operating profit. So how important profit is to the equation. Revenue per employee, a great holistic number. Efficiency of the organization, efficiency of the team, efficiency and use of systems and technology and processes and intellectual property, and of course, staffing levels as well. So a great number to be able to talk to clients about their business. Cash conversion cycle is the cash days, how long it takes for every pound a small business owner spends to come back into their bank account, and obviously a valuable number from that perspective. Core cash target is a measure of a resilient balance sheet. We're using the internationally recognized number here, which is 2 months overheads plus taxes set aside. Now, I appreciate for small business owners, that's an ideal want. Can you imagine most of them certainly stripped their balance sheet and wouldn't have had that in the past. But if you look at it before the pandemic, if your clients had had 2 months overheads plus taxes set aside in March last year, how much of a stronger position would they have been in and more resilient would they have been to weather the storm? So core cash target now is a great way to be able to get your clients thinking about resilience on the balance sheet. And business return is our measure, our return on capital employed, return on investment, changed for a small business because obviously, again, they strip their balance sheet. And this is understanding whether the business owner, and this is a tricky one, whether the business owner would be better putting their money in a bank or whether they would be better getting a job. Because if that business return is at low rates for the risk and reward they're putting into that business, then we need to be talking to our client about potentially, in a nice way, how we're going to make changes to that number, or maybe how they might need to do something else. So these 7 key numbers give your clients an amazing oversight of their entire business. We don't need to wade through long, detailed sets of accounts. We can take them through their 7 key numbers and get them understanding our numbers. And as well, if you think about it from a standardization perspective, if our team know the 7 key numbers we're talking about and understand them, and they take every client through those 7 key numbers, we can get our clients understanding their financial performance in a much better way. The next stage in that map that we showed in that framework was where should they get to? Many small business owners don't have a vision. They don't take time out of their business to understand what's possible. They may have at one time, but they don't do it on a regular basis. And when you sometimes ask a small business owner, oh, what do you think is possible? They'll often say, oh, I don't know. What do you think? They don't have the space. They don't have the clear headroom to be able to think about things like that. So this is how do we make it simple for them to think about what's possible in their business? How do we stretch their mind? How do we make them think about the opportunities and the possibilities within their business. Well, this again is where we can bring simplicity to the fore, stripping back that complexity. Those 7 key numbers, those 7 numbers that every business owner should know and that our team should be able to explain and get to know really well, magically turn into 5 levers of success. Now, obviously, we can look at decreasing numbers here. So maybe it's 5 levers, but let's look at the positive side. This is about survival and through to thrival. So let's look at 5 levers of success. By each of these 5 levers moves up and down, and all we need to do is perform sensitivity analysis on these 5 levers to see what's possible in the business for our client. And each one of these levers will have an impact on the profit and cash position. Can you imagine if we could get our clients to understand what levers drive what numbers, drive what change to profit and cash? How much better they would be able to take business decisions. If they could also, can you imagine it, understand the actions that drive the levers, that drive the numbers, that drive the results, and vice versa. Getting them used to the 7 key numbers and the 5 levers that have an impact on their profit and cash position, and understanding what lever has what bigger impact on what cash or profit position, and what actions are going to drive what levers. We can get them focused on the right areas in their business, and we can get them making the right decisions regularly to be able to make a better business and to have a better impact on their bottom line. So this is, again, stripping back that complexity, performing very simple sensitivity analysis on these 5 levers. You can use any tool you want to do that. Excel, you name it. I probably shouldn't mention Excel, but let's be honest, Excel sometimes is the right tool because for flexibility, and given where we're going, if we're building complex bespoke models, then perhaps Excel is the right solution. So you can use any weapon of choice to perform sensitivity analysis on these 5 levers to be able to give your clients that great insight into what's possible or what they could achieve or what they should be achieving in their business. And it's very simple. Anybody can do 1% more. What is it if you could do 5%? What would it be if you could do 20%? And clients might say to you, well, yeah, that's not possible. You don't know my business. I couldn't do that. Well, if you can show them what other business owners are doing and say, what are they doing differently to you? And what if you could achieve that? How would you be able to achieve it? It certainly changes the conversation around it and gives a very different discussion point with the client. So we've understood where the client is now. We've understood how to help them understand where they could get to. Then it's about calculating that gap. Now, this is so very simple for us, isn't it? It's about where they are now, where they could get to, what that gap is. This is where accountants can provide massive insight, though. Not only can we give critical thinking on that gap to say, oh, hang on a sec, you've only been doing 5% growth for the last 5 years. Why do you think you're going to have 100% growth this year? What's different? What's changed? Or why are those numbers moving in comparison to that? That doesn't make sense. So your critical thinking on that gap analysis is crucial to helping your small business owners understand properly that gap and whether that gap is closable. It's no point having a 5-year plan that's way up here, that's completely unachievable. What we need to do is create a stretch target, one that we believe is possible based on our understanding of the business and our understanding of the numbers, but also stretching the clients too. It's not about just going for the status quo or just maintaining last year plus 5%. In addition, though, we can help our small business owners understand which area is going to have a bigger impact on profit and cash, and perhaps where we need to put the most focus. We can also understand the interrelationship between these numbers, so further giving a more dynamic view of that gap and being able to help our clients more because we can give them that numbers insight, that just inherent ability we have with numbers to be able to help our clients. So where they are now, where they could get to, what the gap is. And the next point is about creating a plan to close the gap. Now, the first one is a financial plan. I won't talk too much about this. You know about a financial plan. You know how to create these, and there's many tools out there to be able to help you do it using technology too. So this is about creating a financial plan to close that gap. But in addition, financial plan on its own isn't helpful. Clients need an action plan to go with that financial plan. And that action plan is as simple as who is going to do what by when. This drives focus, this drives responsibility, and it drives accountability. You as their you holding them accountable is going to have a massive impact on their success. Every world-class athlete has a coach, not to help them hit, kick, throw the ball better, but to keep that athlete on track, to keep them focused, to hold them accountable, and to drive results. That's what you can do as an accountant to help your small business clients. So we need to create a simple action plan with our clients. So who is going to do what task by when, combined with a financial plan. Now we've got the tools to be able to help the clients drive their results and drive the actions. And we can measure and monitor as we're going along. Remember that cake? It's not good enough just having the plan and sticking it in and seeing and saying, well, it's got to be in there for half an hour. We have got to be measuring and monitoring as we go too. So none of these are done in isolation. They all form part of a framework, an important framework that goes together. And in addition to that action plan, you may also need to create a funding plan. As we said, it's rare that businesses can scale from their existing reserves, their existing cash. They often need help from outside to generate that business or to create that plan. So if you do need to help your clients with a funding plan, here's a very simple 3-step process that we've got here. It's helping them understand, is funding the right option? And is there any other option that would help them better? Have we looked at cash acceleration? Have we looked at grants? Have we looked at free funding first before we've gone down a formal funding route? How much is required? Over what period? How affordable is it? Does it support the business? Can we generate a return on investment? And then gathering together the right information to be able to present it in the best light possible so that the client can get access to the best finance at the best rates. So where the client is now, where they could get to, what that gap is, how do we close that gap? And the last stage is about measuring and monitoring results versus the plan. This is as simple as a budget versus actual. If we've got the plan and we've got the numbers, we can measure budget versus actual. And where there's a variance, there's probably 4 reasons for that variance. 1, the plan is cookie and we might need to change the plan. We can't change the plan every month, but certainly if we're going to be reporting that same variance month on month on month, let's change the plan. So first reason, there's a variance, the plan is wrong. Second reason, the client hasn't undertaken some of their activities. They've not done any of their actions on their who, what, when plan. So we need to ask the client, why haven't they done those numbers? Why haven't they taken those actions? How can we help them? What do they need to do? Bring them back to the focus of why they're undertaking those actions. The next reason that might be is that they took the actions and didn't do them in the right way or didn't do them as planned. Or maybe that action was never going to drive that number and we need to take another action instead. Now, if we're measuring and monitoring on a regular basis, monthly preferably, quarterly at worst case, if we're measuring and monitoring with our clients on a regular basis, their plan and their activities, their numbers versus their plan, then we're going to be able to help them continuously improve their business and regularly improve their business. And this is about you and your power of numbers being able to help your clients, and anybody, as you can see on the team, can do any of this. So this is not complex. This is about creating a scalable advisory solution that you can deliver to the bulk of your clients. I'm not saying that some of your clients aren't going to need detailed management reporting or aren't going to need KPIs or aren't going to need complex business models of their business. Of course they will, and you can help those clients too. But this is how you help the vast majority of clients out there that are looking for your help. And how you can do it in a way that you can get the team involved, leverage technology, and be able to scale this so that we can deliver those 5 things that small business owners were desperately looking for. Now, in addition to that variance analysis, also keeping them accountable, as we said, on the action plan is critical to be able to help that business owner drive forward. Not, I hate using the word coach, but giving that framework, that accountability. Businesses that have written goals that are held accountable achieve 78% more. Now, I know from my days in practice, it was more than 78%. That's a study that was done in the US. So I certainly believe 78% is possible, if not 100%. Great. So a quick recap. I am conscious of time. Business advisory made simple. Where your clients are now, where they could get to, what's the gap, create a plan to close that gap, and then help them measure and monitor results versus the plan. And if you want to see how within Clarity, we do all 5 of those things, the 7 key numbers, the 5 levers of success, that gap analysis on those 5 levers, helping you create an action plan, a financial plan, and a funding plan, and then giving you the ability to measure budget versus actual, have systems for regular meetings so that the team can get involved, and also help with continuous improvement. And then this gives you a way to be able to deliver business advisory to those 80% of clients that currently potentially are only getting an accounts and tax return service from you. Or if you're doing it for your 50% of clients, how do you get it to the other 50%? Hope that's given you some good insight into a framework that you can use, something that is easy for you to implement, one that can show demonstrably to the client the value that you can create before you get started, and shows them why it's necessary to have reporting tools in play, and why it's important that we might need Futurely, Fathom, Float, Fluidly, Spotlight, you name it, why those tools now are important in the equation to be able to make that business advisory for those higher value clients. So before we get on to the next steps, if we've got any questions in here, then happily look at some questions. If not, I'll move on.
I think the only one at the moment in there, Aynsley, was just Richard was saying, could you just reconfirm what the fourth reason was around the budget versus actual, why it could be different? He said he got the first three, but missed the fourth.
Okay, so the first, I'll recap for everybody else. First one is the plan's wrong, so we need to change the plan. The second one is that clients have not done what they should have done. So let's find out why and find out what we could do. The second one is they've undertaken actions, but they've done them wrong, or they haven't done them to their best of their ability. And we need to drill into that. And the fourth reason is that the action, and I rolled this in, but the actions that they've undertaken, they were not achieving, they didn't achieve the intended results. So we need to revisit that action and either pivot it or take another action. And when we're doing that on a regular basis with the client on a monthly, quarterly basis, you can see how easy that monthly meeting is now. It's a very simple agenda. So, hi, what were you supposed to do last month? What haven't you done and why? What's keeping you up at night at the moment? Let's look at your numbers. Let's look at the variances, and then let's decide what we're going to do for next month. So when we get that variance, it's about what are we going to do about it? So it's not just good enough to acknowledge there's a variance, it's what we're going to do. So do we need to change the plan? Do we need to take actions? Do we need to stop certain actions? Or do we need to change what we were doing and rethink what actions are going to drive what results? And again, simple agenda for that monthly meeting. And what a lot of accountants get worried about is having that same meeting month on month, David, with clients. And the reality is every single board has the same agenda. Every time they meet, it's the same agenda. It's a different discussion every time because results and activities and everything that's happening is going to be different. So you going to your clients with that same agenda for that monthly meeting is not going to result in the same meeting. And your team can do that too when we use pro forma agendas and systems for them to be able to get involved.
That's really good. And it leads on to the next question quite nicely from another Richard, actually, saying, what software can we use to actually drive business advisory and consultancy?
Well, of course, my weapon of choice, had I been back in practice, would definitely be Clarity, because we can do all of that within the same platform, so we don't have to use other tools. But of course, as I said, you will need to, for certain clients, go in deeper with management reporting. So for example, Fathom. For example, some people use Spotlight or Futurely for that management reporting. For KPIs and dashboards, you might want to look at Futurely and Spotlight because that might be more appropriate for that client. For cash flow analysis, you might want to use something like Float. So there are tools out there, and there's lots of them and lots of forums talking about them. But I suppose my challenge is that when people, and in the past, when you're flogging a Futurely dashboard to clients, they don't understand why they need it. So let's get them involved. So have a look at Clarity. We'll show you how you can get involved with Clarity in an easy way in our next steps.
Okay, bro. So shall we lead on to that now? Do you want to go through, if people like what they've heard and think, actually, this is really useful for me, what do they do from here?
Yeah. So my first point is go back from all that we've shown you, what you can deliver and how you can systemize business advisory now. And we've given you that framework, and there is a tool that will help you do all of that, but We've given you that framework if you don't want to use that tool. So hopefully there's been good educational content for you to be able to understand how you can create that framework and deliver that however you choose to do so. And in conjunction, go on this calculator and see how you can generate combine your compliance and advisory services to create a better firm for you. Play with the calculator, play with it to your heart's content, save it, print it off, do what you want. We're not taking any details from you to be able to do that. So it's complete anonymity that you can do that. So have a look at your own numbers, see what's possible for your accounting firm and what you can achieve. And the other point I would say to you is, if what I've said to you resonates and makes sense to you, then join one of our workshops. We've got workshops that run regularly. What we've done is we've broken full day workshop. We've broken it down for online. So we've broken it down into 4 sessions. And that's actually been so much better, David, we've found, because we have a close loop on learning, implementation, accountability, So this is a very practical workshop. We've had huge success. People have generated thousands of pounds of GRF from that 4-week workshop for their accounting firm just by attending the workshop and by, I suppose, having us as their accountability partner and nudging them and helping them move forward. Now we run probably 2 a month. They are 4 sessions, so you would need to make sure you've got all those 4 sessions. There is a special discount code for those who want to book on today, which is special 100. So that will give you a £97 price for that workshop. So for the cost of £97 and your time, you'll get a fully hands-on workshop showing you how to speak to 10 clients, have meetings with 10 clients, and make a sale to those 10 clients to do it in a way that delivers advisory revenue in a scalable way for your accounting firm. So hugely valuable for those that have taken part. Go on the landing page. Sam will drop it in the chat box. It's the link is there, but I know Sam will drop it in the chat box. And it talks about the workshop there, what you can do, how you can get involved. And, you can also see on our social media the testimonials from people who've been on the workshop and the revenue that they've generated over that 4-week period for their firm.
Yeah, that's really great. Thanks, Aynsley. And yeah, Sam has put those in the chat as well. So if you go in there I understand that the discount code is just for today, is it? If you make sure you get on today.
Yeah, so if you book today, you get it for that special £97 price.
Yeah.
We do have other discounts, so you might get it at a later stage at maybe £197. The special code might give you the indication there. But there's lots of goodies and treats that come along the way in addition to helping you make money. So at £497, it's steal, but at 97 quid, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, so I'd encourage everybody, make sure you follow up with that today, just so you don't miss that as well. And also as a follow-up as well, one of the things I'd encourage people to do is if you actually have a look at xumagazine.com and go to issue 26, which is our latest issue, go to page 16 in there, and we've got a really nice piece on clarity in there as well. So if you wanted to find out a little bit more about clarity, we've got a good bit of content there on them in XU Magazine. I don't think there's anything else to cover on there, Aynsley. Have you got through everything?
I've got through everything, so I'm conscious of time, and I'm conscious that we've got a minute silence coming up. So
yeah,
I think miraculously I've kept to time and delivered ahead of time a little bit.
I was going to say you did great, and I didn't even have to give you a nudge or anything, so you've done really good. So thanks to everybody for dropping in today. Thanks to Aynsley, that was fantastic, and thanks for offering that discount to the readers of XU Magazine as well. Have a fantastic afternoon, everybody, and we'll let everybody go a couple of minutes just ahead of the minute silence at midday. Thanks again.
Fantastic. Thanks, David.
Bye.